So today I would like to talk to you about a strange story, Ghost in the Art Gallery. Um, at that time, I was a partner in a paint and chemical business called Encode Chemicals Limited. And I had an Indian fellow from India as a partner, and we did very well. But I don't know why, I was not really enchanted with the life that was going to be my future. I didn't feel so happy about being a businessman and a chemist. And I look at the ads in the newspaper just in case, and there was an ad: invest $40,000 and make $40,000 a year. I cut the half, threw it in the basket later on, pulled it out of the basket, the waste basket, and finally decided to call. And the man had 10 art galleries to sell, all of them in malls. And I bought the one in Carrefour Laval, in the suburb of Montreal. That gallery was going down the drain. But I look at the art, and you know, if you make a simple calculation, let's say you sell to 150 people in 1 year, and the average price per painting is $600. $90,000 of income, then you have to pay the rent and the salaries. Nothing, the artists, nothing is left. So I knew that if I bought that gallery, I needed to find better artists, the ones whose work could be sold at a higher price, and yet people would spend the money because the art was really interesting. At that time, the art gallery we were forced by the mall to open 6 days a week, and Thursday night and Friday night. So there wasn't much time to recruit the artists. But I was optimistic, and every Sunday I would visit artists, see what they were doing. And I found a guy, Ron Davies. Ron Davies was separated from his wife and his two kids, son. And he was the kind of easygoing nature, very calm, very kind. And his work was extraordinarily beautiful. And they were beautiful in a subdued way, but we could almost tell the temperature, the humidity in the air in one of his landscapes. So I asked Ron, would you sell me all your paintings? And he was doing about 5 paintings a week, not very big. And he said yes. But you know what I loved about this guy was his culture. He had absolutely no money since he was sending any surplus to his wife living in Toronto. But he was going to the municipal library and renting books for nothing really. And he knew everything about almost any subject. So it was pleasant conversation I had with him. And I was selling his art. At that time, I had already increased the sales volume in the gallery with the introduction of a couple of other artists, not as good as Ron Davies, but better than what we had before. But with the introduction of the art of Ron Davies, the sales really boomed up. And until a point when 2 or 3 years later, we hit a very heavy recession, and business was really tough. And at that time, there was no such thing as consignment. So I was buying the art that I was showing in my gallery. And I had now accumulated a large number of Ron Davies artworks, and I didn't know if I could survive financially and still buying and buying. And at that moment, I had started at that time. I started an encounter service company, the Club of the Art Friends, and I was matching couples. And Ron Davies was one of those people that asked me, I would like to meet a girlfriend, to have a girlfriend in my life. And I had introduced a very nice lady to him, and it worked. And at that moment, they wanted to live together. And Ron asked me, would you lend me $2,000 for the cash down on the house? And we would like my girlfriend and I to live there together. And even though I didn't have much money, and $2,000 I could. But I asked him, what kind of house are you going to buy with $2,000 cash down? He said, it is a $4,000 house in the prairie. Well, really, it was a shack in a swamp. But in his artist's eyes, he knew what he could do with it. And anyhow, I lent him the money, and that night it was 5 o'clock. No, it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He went with his girlfriend to the few belongings they had in his apartment. They rented a truck, and they put it all in the truck, and he went back to see if he forgot anything. At that moment, he died on the stairway, heart attack. The girlfriend was outside in the truck waiting for him. And after a while, she went back to see what was happening, and she found him dead. She called 911, and she panicked, and she left. So I received, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I received a call from the hospital. And they said, you know what, there is a man that died, and he has your business card in his pocket. So you might know him. So, okay, I'm coming. So I went to the hospital, and it was Ron Davies, my old friend. We had been meeting every week on Saturday or Friday night with his paintings. And I was always, wow, what a beautiful one. And it was his good moment of the week. So we had developed a really good friendship, very close friendship. And now he was dead. And at that moment, I had 168 paintings from him. I had accumulated that large number. Because I could not refuse his work. It was a recession, nobody would have bought it. No art galleries would have bought paintings at that time. So I called his family, and I talked with his son, and he said, please wait for me. I will rush there, I will be there. And I waited 4 hours from Toronto to Montreal. It was a long way. He must have gone 100 miles an hour all the way. He came to the room, and when he saw, I had not told him his father was dead. I said he is in critical conditions. And when he saw his father dead in the room, and we were at the 4th story in the hospital, he started to shout his despair. He loved his father so much, and he was shouting. Everybody in the hospital could hear the shout of despair of that young man. And at that moment, there was a white dove that came to the window. And it had a very strange behavior. I said, look at that bird in the window. Look at what it is doing. It wants to tell us something. That bird wants to convey a message. It might be your father moving that bird around the window. Look at that. And then the bird just perched on the window and looked at us and made little signs of its head. And that calmed down his son. And then in the following weeks, I had the sensation that there was someone in the art gallery with me. And I was working alone most of the time. My wife was a nurse at the hospital. But that sensation was there. And when there were visitors coming to the gallery, it seems like someone was helping me making the sales. Because in the year that followed, We sold 166 of his 168 paintings had accumulated. It was just unbelievable. I kept 2 for myself. And then there was another artist. He died, let me tell you first that he died on 1st of April at 50 years old. The other artist that I really, really like, and I was selling his work like hotcakes, was Jean-Paul Landry. And Jean-Paul Landry was the kind of artist who was doing beautiful landscape with people in it, high, heavy texture, beautiful, beautiful. But he was not the kind of guy that would talk easily with people. So, under his rough behavior, there was a kind of art, I knew that. And that was 1 year later. Jean-Paul Landry bought me the last 4 paintings, still wet, oil paintings still wet, attached with a little block of wood so that they would not touch each other. And the show we had sent all the invitation was for the next Wednesday. So that was a Saturday, and he said that he was going to the sugar barn, because in Quebec, and maybe in Ontario too, it's in the spring, it is a good time to go for dancing, eating in sugar barns. So that day he talked to me. He gave me some advices. Wow, he's talking to me? I was so surprised. 1 hour later, as he was dancing, he died on the floor of the sugar barn. 1st of April, also 1 year between Ron Davies and Jean-Paul Landry. On Sunday, the day after, I didn't know he had died. I was going through the South Shore suburb of Montreal, where Jean-Paul Landry lives. I was on the highway at 70 miles an hour, and I saw Jean-Paul come inside the car and sit right beside me. And I said, wow, you are dead. And he didn't turn his head towards me. And I like that, because, you know, to see the eyes of a dead man, I wouldn't have liked that. But he didn't move his head, just kept looking straight ahead. So I took the first exit I found and went to a phone booth, called his wife, and she was crying on the phone. She said, he died only an hour after we left you in the sugar barn. He had an heart attack, and he died with a smile on his lip. But I knew she was quite desperate. She loved her husband. But I said, you know what? Your husband, Jean-Paul, is in my car right now. He's sitting beside me. I just left to call you. Just left the car. She couldn't believe me. I said, believe me, it's true. So I went back to the car, and I will take a little break now, and I'll tell you what happened next. You won't believe it.